Hi, welcome to another episode of the Visual Storytelling Today podcast. The show is designed for you, the marketer or entrepreneur, who may be looking for more effective ways to connect better with audiences through the exciting world of visual storytelling. We will introduce you to inspiring experts from diverse industries that bring fresh perspectives on how to capture attention, build trust, emotional empathy, and last but not least, drive business results. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Shlomi Ron. I'm the CEO at the Visual Storytelling Institute. We are based here in sunny Miami. Welcome to another episode of the Visual Storytelling Today show. Today, I'd like to start with a simple question. What do you get when you mix together storytelling and geography? Well, I've recently come across BuiltStory. It's a new mobile app that's doing just that. So just imagine you can create self-guided tours where each stop is in essence a chapter of a longer story you're telling about your town or other places you're visiting. So not only that, and that's the cool part about it, is that the app allows you to sell your tours and getting other people to appreciate the stories behind your favorite places and other places you're planning to go. So how cool is that? So especially these days, as we entering the reopening period during this summer, I figure this is a great topic and a great opportunity to use to tell a visual story, especially after our 2 months plus of long lockdown. So with this in mind, I'd like to introduce you to Brian Alonso. He's the co-founder of BuiltStory, and he's going to tell us more about this unique visual storytelling approach. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you, Shlomi. Thank you for having me. Really happy to be here.
No, that's great. Yeah, I know we met through a mutual, actually a client, Avenue 3 Miami down here, and it's actually also testing this exciting platform. So I thought this is a fantastic opportunity to share this with our listeners and viewers. And before we dive right in, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your most emotional moment that got you to start BuiltStory.
Yeah, so I accidentally got involved in historic preservation in Miami. I am born and raised also in Miami.
Yep.
And my family was very fortunate to have owned a historic building in downtown Miami.
Yep.
It was we've heard of many ways, the second or third largest Walgreens ever built.
Oh, wow.
And it was built by Charles Walgreens himself.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, his grandson came into our store about 15 years ago and told us all of his memories of the building. And it was a really cool experience to own a slice of history, but also to have and acquire all the stories that were involved with that one building and all the layers that had to do with it. And so it was a fantastic experience for me to do that. Now, we parted ways with the building more recently, and the building was in need of a rehab, and it really went to a great new property owner who was able to do what the building needed to have done to it. And so in a sense, I lost some of that connection, and it really came to me as, if this is just my one building, how many other stories are out there, and how do we collect and keep those stories in a sustainable way to keep them going? And also along the way too, because of my interest in the building, interest in the history of Miami, I got involved with Dade Heritage Trust, the largest historic preservation group in Miami-Dade County.
Yep.
And I'm a past president of it, and really enjoyed getting to see and learn so much about the city, a city that I grew up in, and really thought that I knew most of what there was to know about it, and realized that I knew a fraction of it. And then getting access to that information was hard, where I could sit in a meeting and somebody would tell me a story and really get to hear that story from that person. But if I wasn't in that meeting with that person, I never would have known that. And you have History Miami, and you have other organizations out there that do a decent job of collecting this stuff. But really I tried to get my mind around, how do we make these stories available to everybody? in a sustainable, easy to use way. And today's way is technology. And so
it's come to think of it, it's actually crowd storytelling, because you're actually using the crowds to create stories and share them.
Exactly. And part of it is not my stories, but it's everybody else's stories and collecting them together.
Exactly.
So what we did was touring and going from location to location to location really is the best way to get to know a city and best way to get a story out. And so what we did was using technology that we were able to develop is we started making tours. However, going along with what you were saying is we don't create any of the content for these tours. That is for other people. That is for the storytellers to have. And what we are is we realize that our best asset could be to develop the technology to allow people to tell these stories in a digital way.
Yeah, no, this is so cool. Yeah, I especially liked, when you've got the idea while you still had the business in that building, people come to you and ask you about what is some of the stories of that historical building. And that's kind of initiate your idea for the power of story and why it's important to preserve these precious stories. So, no, this is awesome. So let me ask you something I ask all my guests. How do you define visual storytelling?
So to me, in my narrow scope here of what we're doing, but also more broadly, to me, visual storytelling is a connection between people and place. And I've always been a visual learner. When a teacher could sit up in front of a class and give a lecture, it's all audio. But as soon as they start drawing a diagram on the wall, everything made more sense to me. And that memory to me was 10 times more impactful if I saw it than if I listened to it.
Yeah.
And so to me, visual storytelling is about the association of a visual object to the story behind it. And so if we can, like my app does, is takes you to a specific place where a story happened, and you can be there and have the visual stimulation around you connected to the story being told to you at the same time, that memory and that emotional connection is 10 times stronger than just reading it in a book, or perhaps even watching on TV. It's being there, immersing yourself in it, and connecting yourself to it. And so to me, that's what visual storytelling is.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, from this perspective, we know that stories have a tremendous power to really transport people to places, locations. And so I would argue that what you've built is some sort of a time machine that allows people to re-experience stories of other people's, so what they saw through their stories and visuals and images and videos that you're going to show us later. So this is so cool. So the other part that I really liked about this platform is that we typically think about tour guides as really going through the traditional historical aspect of a place, more kind of a tourism perspective. But I really liked your vision that your purpose is really to allow tour creator to use physical location to trigger personal fantasy storytelling. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as we started, definitely when people think of a tour and walking around your city square and you got a tour guide taking you around, most frequently it's either architecture tours or historical tours.
Yeah.
And that's really what it started with. And that's really, based on my history and the genesis of where this happened, it was playing in that arena. But we realized once we made this infrastructure and this digital environment where you can go to one point, tell a story, go to another point, tell a story, go to another point, tell a story, we realized that there's so much more than just history and architecture, that there's cultural, there's art in public places, there's food, and food definitely tells a big story. and what it is that inspired a chef to do that, and what is that emotional connection between you and the food, and getting that interpretation through storytelling. And then you can even do fictional storytelling and have a fantasy or ghost tours, or all of this storytelling really opened up as soon as the way that you very appropriately describe it is doing storytelling with geography, realizing that it really opens up all these doors. So it's not just history or architecture,
Right.
and it's not just touring; it's storytelling.
Exactly.
And that's what the name of our app is BuiltStory. Built meaning the built environment, and storytelling, and putting them together into a really interesting narrative.
So since our audience is comprised of visual storytellers, marketers, entrepreneurs, maybe just to kind of bring to life what you're just telling us, how you can really transform each stop into a chapter in an overarching story that represent a tour. Maybe you can share a few examples of a tour that actually demonstrate that.
Sure. So just to tell you some of the details of how the app works.
Sure.
It's a connection of stops that will tell the story, and in between the stops there's directions, and it's all done. We built it all on Google Maps, using Google Places and Google Directions. So all of that is that very familiar environment that you're in when you're doing GPS directions in your car.
Yep.
And so what we did at each stop, we made the story to be able to be told using 4 methods, which is pictures, text, audio files, or video files. And it can be any one of those 4, or it could be all 4 of those.
That's so cool.
It could be whatever the storyteller thinks he needs to be able to tell the story, and to sufficiently tell the story. So, if it's a historic photo of a particular event that happened at that current location where I'm standing right now, a still photo could be it. It could be a text narrative, just a written narrative. It could be the tour guide, recording himself, talking at that location and doing what they want to do. It could be a historical video, whatever it is that could tell the story of it. And then also, so one way we've heard it described, I think it's an effective way of describing it, is think of a Facebook post.
Yep.
On every Facebook post, you can do text, you can do pictures, you could do video.
Right.
You can do an audio file. I don't know if you can do an audio file on Facebook, but on ours, we can do audio files. So think of each location as like a Facebook post. And then in addition, on a Facebook post, you can get comments and you can get, sub messages down below. So what we did as well is we made a journal feature. So when you're at that stop and you've just got this chapter of the story, like you like to describe it before, you can also then journal about it and express your feelings and how did that make you feel, and you can document that thing. So also part of storytelling is listening, interpreting, and then telling, and
then there become public comments, right? Everybody can see it.
And then if you choose, your journal is private to you, but if you choose, when you write it at the end, we allow you to have a social media share. So then you can then share out just that snippet of your journal. Otherwise, you come to your journal and you'll see your list will grow.
Yeah.
And so we have some communication, we have some interpretation. As you're listening to stories, you're also putting your feedback into it. You can share it out to your friends. You can keep it internal to you.
Is the journal also visible to the tour creator? I mean, can it create like a dialogue between the tour taker and the creator?
No, not at this time.
I see.
It's just internal to you, and then you can share it out to social media.
I see.
We've also, we've gotten some feedback that it would also be really cool to share it out to other people who might be on the same tour with me.
Yeah.
And have that accidental dialogue with other
Right.
people that are there. At this time, we don't have that functionality.
Got it. Well, you
But
just started, so the product roadmap will definitely absorb that later on.
so things to look forward to. But it's amazing with technology.
Yeah.
Once you create the infrastructure, all the additional things that you could do.
Yeah.
And
one thing you probably forgot to mention is that those tours can actually be customized to walking and driving. And what I really liked about it is that, especially in the driving part, you can actually, since you can upload audio, you can create actually playlists of the soundtrack that you are offering the drivers as they go from one stop to the other, which is another layer of the storytelling that I thought it's almost like you putting your tour takers as actors in a movie that you actually created.
Yes. So as the way the structure works is when you decide that you're going to electronically purchase a tour, it will then say, where's my current location? And it'll give me directions to stop one.
Right.
And when you get to stop one, you will then be able to get all the content that you described. Now, if somebody wants to ahead of time see that content or play audio or play video or play anything on the way there, then at that moment they're able to do that. And then, while they're getting the directions, or if they're being driven or they're just a passenger in the car being driven or things like that, you can do that. There is that flexibility to do that ahead.
Yeah, that's so cool. I really like that feature.
And then if you want to skip that stop, just because of you, or because you've been there before, or whatever, and you would choose to skip that stop, you can also go back and forth and go back, bounce around the tour as you wish. Although storytelling, oftentimes it needs to be sequential. So we wouldn't recommend that, but it offers that flexibility to do that. And so
cool. So why don't you show us a few examples just to give people a sense? This is obviously for people who's going to watch this on YouTube. For the folks in podcast land, we'll try to be descriptive as possible.
So let me pull up a video here. And this is just a preview of what our Shlomi, can you see the video?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what our app looks like. It takes you in, it shows you your current location, and it'll show you tours that are around you, that have been created around you. There's a filter button up there, and you can do walking, bicycle, or car tours. Actually, let me go back there. So you can do
you can filter based on different interests.
Correct. And then, so mobility would be car, bicycle, or foot. It could also be Segway. I would do a bicycle or rollerblades if that's your preferred mode of transport.
Scooter, maybe.
Scooter. And then we've got some age appropriate things. We've gotten a lot of families traveling who have young children and are looking for particular activities like that. In particular, children traveling can't be part of a larger walking tour groups. Well, and this is before COVID-19. And so we've got some age things, and then we've got here categories. Where was this an architecture tour, art and culture, children's activities, cuisine and bar, fictional storytelling, history, literature, nightlife, or there was a last one there, got cut off, which is a special category, which would be like ghost tours.
Got it.
And so you can filter down if you have a particular preference and there is that abundance in your area. You can filter down. In this case, we're going to do the murals of downtown Durham, and it'll show you, it'll give you a brief blog of what it is. It'll give you a preview of the stops that you're going to go to. And then you purchase it right there in the app. All tours are $10. We think it's a very reasonable price, and to keep this whole thing sustainable.
And there's no membership fees.
And there's a revenue share to the person who created the tour.
Right.
gets half of it, and our platform gets half of it,
Right.
in order to keep everything sustainable, keep it moving.
Yeah, and there's no monthly fees or anything, right?
No monthly fees, no fee to sign up, no fee
Yep.
to create a
Yep.
tour, no fee for anything. It's only as
Yeah,
tours are purchased, there's a
that's
revenue
amazing.
share.
That's so cool.
And then as this was moving here, you saw that we were at this current location, and then it moved along, and it's approaching stop one. And when you get to that particular stop, you'll find the content there at the bottom that in this case is just pictures and text.
Yeah,
and then
people
at the
can write
bottom
stories.
and in the bottom here is your ability to add your journal entry.
Yeah.
And you can take a photo as part of your journal too, and say,
oh, wow.
here's where I was, here's my memory of being there. It could be a selfie. It could be a selfie, and it will upload that. And then when it finishes, it'll say, do you want to share this? And if you choose to share it, it will, it'll ask you, do you want to send it on Facebook, LinkedIn, or where you choose to want to share it. And in this case, now we hit next to stop 2. And now it'll give you directions to the next stop.
To the next stop, yeah.
And the next stop and the next stop.
Oh.
So that's an example, a little bit of how the touring is working.
Yep.
And then and I think Shlomi, you asked me also to do an example of what an audio or a video would look like.
Yeah, just so we can get a good idea about the different expressions to tell a story.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So this one is a ghost tour, and this person made some ghost images, and they use an audio file. And here's the.
Yeah, I can hear it.
So that's an example of what an audio file could look like.
One thing I should add about the audio file, and you should probably Google Voyages, New York Times. They did a separate special project a few years ago where they basically created what I call cross-media experience. It was the Sunday magazine that was comprised of images, and each image has a link to a webpage. You go to the webpage, and you would listen to the actually sounds that came from that place. So if it was a volcano, you hear like the volcano sound, and there was a commentary. So I'm thinking you could probably replicate that. So let's say I'm doing a tour on, Miami Beach, and I want to communicate the experience there as if you're there. So you sometimes can do much more with less. So if you just record the actual sounds on the beach, on Miami Beach, and let people kind of build a story, the visual story in their heads. So that's another idea. You can just use the images if you don't want to go videos. I mean, the possibilities are really limitless. So
here's an example of somebody who did a video file.
Yep.
And this stop is at the Jumpin' Java coffee shop.
Yep.
All right, the first stop on our tour is Jumpin' Java to get some coffee and get our day started the right way.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, we're actually doing the same thing as I told you for Avenue 3 Miami. It's going to be chef stories that we're going to interview the chef, what was their idea for starting the business, and then they're going to actually switch to telling a story behind a special dish, just to create like emotional bond, as you said earlier, with the story and with the place, especially now that restaurants are still struggling and opening up gradually. So we thought that could be a great fit.
Yeah, and it's amazing. like I said, once you create the platform, all the different ways that it can go, and just by having those 4 forms of storytelling: video, audio, pictures, and text.
Yeah.
Really, what somebody chooses to want to do with it, what narrative,
Exactly.
what connection to their community they know and they want to pass along, is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited to be able to do this. And we've also gotten a question. I'll bring it up. Is that are these virtual tours? Meaning, I'm still sitting on my sofa,
Right.
and I can take these virtually. The short answer is yes. If somebody chooses to want to do that, they certainly can. Nothing holding them back from doing that. But they really are intended to be in the field.
Yeah.
And going to, like I said, the connection between people and place. The impact is just so much more when you are there doing it.
No, definitely.
And connecting. And so they really are. These are intended to be self-guided tours. And then the other advantage of tech as well is you can really get to some remote locations where a traditional tour really wouldn't have gotten you to.
No, definitely.
And taking a tour of downtown is easy. Taking a tour of South Beach is easy. But as soon as you start getting into the Redlands or areas like Opelika that might have a fascinating history,
a tour guide, obscure places.
A tour guide, it's hard for them to assemble people to then go out there and dealing with the logistics and dealing with all that stuff, where self-guided on your phone, you take the tour your way, your time, really allows for storytelling to get to some remote areas, such as also in South Florida. We do not have a tour like this, but I've been wanting to do a tour like this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Hoping somebody will create it. Will be the Native American Trail through South Florida, and go everything from the Tequesta Indians in downtown all the way down to Deering Bay. There's some great artifacts that have been done. And then a lot of the stuff is buried below the ground. So you do need some kind of technology to be able to know what's down there, what you're looking at.
Right.
And to be able to get a better idea along the Miami River there. And so throughout the South Florida, there's a number of Native American things that story can just be told. And there's nobody organizing those trails at the time. And technology can be a great way to get there.
Yeah, so let's switch gears, and now that we know a little bit about the app and how you can create stories, different visual formats, what would you say was your toughest challenge of launching the platform and how you handled it?
So just like any tech, everything is easy until it's not easy.
Right.
And so we've been at this for over a year now, just, putting the tech together, and creating some of the challenges. A big part of the challenge, it has been dealing with Apple.
Oh, really?
And I have a little sore spot right now for Apple. That they labeled our app digital content, and Apple is in the business of selling digital content themselves. So they really put some very difficult restrictions on it, including when delaying payment and then taking a very large percentage of stuff from us. It's the stuff you're hearing on the national conversation going on right now. And if we were selling physical goods, it wouldn't have anything to do with it. But as soon as you get into digital content, they like to protect that for themselves. So I've had to have multiple payment processors, and I've had to create a whole lot of infrastructure in the back end to accommodate Apple. And that was extremely frustrating to me. And that was really hard. That set us back 4 to 5 months.
Wow.
Alone.
But now you're probably the expert in how to get an app accepted on Apple.
So that's just an example of some of the tech struggles that we went through. And that has been the hardest challenge. The the pleasant surprise has really been getting our app in front of people, in particular tour guides and storytellers.
Yep.
And, just getting them signed up has been an extreme pleasant surprise. And we're really loving the feedback that we've been getting.
Yeah, you said you have about over 100 tours right now, right?
We've got over 100 tours created already. And our map we built on Google Maps, so it exists everywhere in the United States as of today. We have a deadline on Monday that we're going to be opening up all of Europe as well.
Oh, that's so cool.
So really, 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 really excited by that.
Yeah.
And so slowly, moving along, but tours can be created anywhere in the United States right now. And so, like any new product, one challenge is getting the product built, and the other challenge is getting the word out there that the product exists.
Quick question: can somebody outside the U.S. can create a tour in the U.S., or they need to be in the U.S.?
No. The short answer is you can be anywhere and create a tour anywhere.
Okay, got it.
But we have a financial obligation to our business model is that as tours are purchased for $10, half of the revenue goes to the person who made the tour, half the revenue goes to our platform. So we have a financial obligation to pay people who create tours.
Got it.
And with every country, there is tax, legal implications to all of that. And so we use a company called Stripe for all of our payment processors.
Yep.
And they have reciprocal agreements in 27 countries. So you can register if you're in one of those 27 countries, which are most of the major countries in the world, except outside of China. China, you cannot register. If
so they have restrictions.
If you're in one of those 27 countries, you can then go onto our platform and register. And then from there, you can then create tours in any of the other countries that we've also opened up. So
so you can, in essence, it's just you need to make sure you're part of the 27 countries.
Correct. So there's some limitations on there. The short answer is yes. The long answer is it depends.
Yeah. Another important question that our audience is, I'm sure, very curious about, since we are all wearing the marketing hat. Do you see any particular how brands could use the platform to create branded tours that support their brand and, in essence, give their customer base a new and richer experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for anybody. So anybody who registers on our platform, whether you're an individual or corporation, you get a landing page.
Yep.
And you can put a little information, put a biography about you, put some links to your website and things like that, and then you can show all the tours that you've created. But beyond that is, every brand has a connection to something. In particular, if you're a lifestyle.
Yep.
And you would want to maybe do some tours that are connected to that lifestyle. So if you are a Jeep brand and you wanted to do off-roading excursions, certainly those kinds of things could be possible in there.
Yeah, remember Saturn Club used to have those tours long ago. I don't know if they still have it.
And so also, if you're a tour that has a long history if your company has a long history in one community, and you thought that, showing all the locations and showing the history of where your first store was and where your first factory was or things like that, that could help you tell the story of your company, then certainly there's opportunity there.
Yeah.
But I think the larger opportunity really is in lifestyle. And so if you're a brand that offers a hotel excursion and you wanted to show additional things to do in your community that are going to help brand your, and help with the lifestyle, you think of the patrons to your establishment.
Yeah, I would also think, influencers, people that have already a created a personal brand for themselves, compared to Instagram, where you can put images, videos, but there's no like logical story structure. It's really random posting. If you create a story structure, behind a specific tour that influencer want to bring their audience in, I think that's another great opportunity for individuals that already have large following.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So another question before we close is, how can tour takers see a place through the eyes of tour creators and really give them something extra? What are your top 3 tips for tour creators that going to really bring up the level of the experience?
So I would say the 3 tips would be: find an interesting narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on walking tours where it's dry history.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how somebody wants to hear about this was built in 1936 and this did that. But, oh, wait a second, Al Capone was here and he pulled out his gun and he shot somebody. All of a sudden, the story became interesting.
Yeah.
And
you need to have conflict. So throw some conflicts to the story.
So all I would say is, find interesting narratives. That is the best. Second would be to be short and concise.
Yep.
And in our world today of fast-paced social media and
short attention span. Yep.
Attention spans are minimal. So do the minimum it is to tell a story.
Yep.
Nobody anymore wants to read War and Peace.
Yep.
And so, be short and succinct.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally this is part of our job, but also we need help is to make it easy.
Right.
And so if you're expecting somebody to walk 1 and 2 miles between stops, that's not a helpful tour. And so we are making it easy to deliver the stories, but also, do make sure that the
content, the quality of the content,
the geography and everything is
Mm-hmm.
easy. And I think if we do that, we'll have this is going to be fantastic.
That's so cool. So thank you so much for your time today. I've learned so much about, how you can mix geography and storytelling, in a new way that I haven't thought about. And I really think that this platform could have a fantastic potential, both with individuals and brands. And lastly, how can our audience best contact you if they have any questions?
Sure. Our website has a lot of information, BuiltStory.com. And we've got places to leave us messages there. We've also got a lot of FAQs, things like that you might be able to find. We've got maps there where you can search tours that might be available in your area. That we've got the links there to download our app. But any particular question you might have, send it to hello@builtstory.com. And happy to get back to you as soon as possible and be able to answer any questions you might have. So really excited to be working with everybody and really excited to get this out there. And Shlomi, thank you so much for hosting me today. This was fantastic.
Awesome. No, that's a lot of fun on my end as well. So thank you, everybody. And I hope to see you here in the next episode of the Visual Storytelling Today podcast. Thank you.
Visual Storytelling Today is recorded in Miami, Florida. The show is published exclusively by Visual Storytelling Institute. Learn more at visualstorytell.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on the iTunes Store. Until next time, don't let your big story wait to be told.